Potara Earrings Fusion Dance. These two methods allow Goku and Vegeta to essentially fuse together to create the ultimate fighter. With the earrings, Goku and Vegeta become Vegeta, the one destined to destroy Buu. However, with the fusion dance, they turn into another fighter, the angel born in hell, Gogeta. However, this won't be a comparison between who's stronger, though if you'd like to see this matchup in the future, feel free to say so in the comments. The video is quite simply a comparison of both fusion methods to see which one is not only stronger, but is more efficient. But before we start, please make sure to subscribe, close to 30k, so if you enjoy this type of content, feel free to. Thank you. Potara Earrings were first introduced into Dragon Ball Z's 307th chapter of the manga, or episode 267 in the anime. They are earrings worn by Supreme Kais and their apprentices. These small yellow earrings may seem ordinary, but if given to the right fighters, they can form a strong fusion. By wearing each earring on the opposite ear, two individuals will be brought together to fuse. An interesting thing to note about the Patara is, unlike the fusion dance, the two fighters don't need to be of similar or equal power to combine. Whether person A's power level is 10,000 and person B is 5,000, they'll still be able to fuse together. Originally, fusion was indefinite and could only be undone via special circumstances, such as when Vegeta was absorbed by Buuhan, and due to Buu's atmosphere, it caused the fusion to be undone. However, this was later retconned in Dragon Ball Super. If two mortals fuse together, it will only last an hour. The exception to this rule is obviously non-mortals, aka if a Supreme Kai is involved in the fusion, it becomes indefinite, as we saw with Merged Zamasu. If an individual is transformed while fusing, the fused being will not be able to power down from that transformation. As a result, certain transformations, such as Super Saiyan, can put a significant strain on the user's body and shorten his or her lifespan. Fused Zamasu is indefinitely in the state of Super Saiyan Rose due to Goku Black using it when he fused. In Dragon Ball Super, if an immortal and a mortal were to fuse, the regeneration of the fused being from the immortality will be impaired. If the damage is sufficient enough, the body will not be able to heal properly and will become corrupted. It is even possible for the body to be completely destroyed, as shown when Fused Zamasu destroyed his own body after future Trunks cut it in half. Despite this, Fused Zamasu did not actually die and continued to exist without a body. However, you're probably wondering what makes the Potara fusion for Goku and Vegeta so strong. And that is because of something known as the rival boost. Originally, it was supposed to just be Goku and Gohan fusing. However, due to Gohan dropping the other Potara earring, Goku was left to fuse with someone else. Goku didn't have many options, but luckily Vegeta was brought back from the afterlife. Even if Gohan was stronger than Vegeta at this point, the rival boost made up for the power difference. The rival boost comes from a statement from Elder Kai that says Vegeta gets an extra boost from Goku and Vegeta being rivals. Because of this rival boost, El Manga Legendario states that if Goku and Gohan had not merged, they probably would have not reached such a level. But just how strong is the Potara Earrings? Like the Super Saiyan transformations, is there an official multiplier? Perhaps during Dragon Ball Z's run it was more clear-cut, but with the addition of Super, it is way harder to tell. You can go about it one of two ways. 1. The power multiplier for Potara is AXB. As shown by the scan, it seems to suggest that the multiplier for Potara Fusion is 1 with the other. So for example, let's take Saiyan Saga Goku and Vegeta's power levels, but slap on Potara Fusion, just so you can understand how strong they would be. Vegeta's power level at the time was just 18,000, whereas Goku was stated to be 8,000. But for scaling purposes, let's bump it to 9,000. So with simple multiplication, 9,000 times 18,000 equals a power level of 162 million. To put it into perspective, Goku and Vegeta went from being weaker than Dodoria, one of Frieza's top henchmen who had a power level of 22,000, to stronger than a full power Frieza on Namek, who had a power level of 120 million. 2. The multiplier for Potara is A plus B times 10. Based on the statement made by Angel Vados, Potara Fusion adds the 2 fuses power that multiplies it times 10. So in that scenario, we will use the same Saiyan Saga Vegeta and Goku. Vegeta 18,000 plus Goku's 9,000 equals 27,000. 27,000 times 10 equals 270,000. That means they went from weaker than Dodoria to about half of first form Frieza's power level. The second option sounds more plausible, but there's really no clear-cut answer. Some people believe it really is A times B, despite how crazy the power increase would be, but in the same instances, it would make sense as shown in the DBZ anime. When Goku and Vegeta fused into Vegito in the anime, base Vegito alone was able to bully Buuhan, when Goku and Vegeta in their strongest forms weren't even able to lay a scratch on Buuhan. But now that we've gone over Potara Fusion, let's discuss its counterpart, the fusion dance. The fusion dance is a technique that was introduced by Goku after learning it during the 7-year time skip he spent training in the other world. The purpose of fusion, like the Patara, is to merge two fighters to create an even stronger fighter. The fusion dance is a short series of poses that are performed by two individuals of equal power levels. To correctly perform the fusion, the fusees must strike the poses in a perfectly symmetrical image of one and the other. The result of a correctly performed fusion dance is a superior being whose power is multiplied several-fold over that of the individual fusees. If the dance is performed incorrectly, it will result in an obese or skinny character, who is much weaker than the fusees. Though in Dragon Ball GT this has changed so that instead of becoming a failed fusion, the fusion process from an incorrectly performed dance will cancel before fusion can be achieved. Fusing through this technique uses up a lot of ki. While the technique works best with the fusees, who have roughly equal sizes, Akira Toriyama has stated that it is possible to merge no matter the conditions, so as long the technique is followed properly. The fused characters possess mixed physical traits of their original counterparts. All characters fused through the fusion seem to acquire the same attire: white pants, a blue sash, and a blue or black vest with yellow or orange padding around the shoulders and neck, and black shoes with blue leg wraps. The total fusion time lasts about 30 minutes, depending on the amount of ki that is used. After a successful fusion splits apart, it takes the characters' bodies another hour before they are able to fuse again. However, if the fusion was unsuccessful, the two characters can immediately attempt fusion again after splitting. The fusion can also end if the two fusees' power levels fall out of sync after the fusion is completed. In Dragon Ball Z Wrath of the Dragon, it is revealed that if the fused characters sustain enough damage while under fusion, the fusion will end prematurely. Additionally, the more powerful the fused entity is, the shorter the fusion will last. For example, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta only lasted 10 minutes. It is possible that this only applies to means of power beyond the fused entity's natural power, such as unnatural transformations beyond the natural state of Super Saiyan, as the aforementioned form has never been shown to affect the fusion time's limit, while extensions of the form such as Super Saiyan 3 are the only ones in the original manga to shorten a fused entity's time limit, with Super Saiyan 4 doing the same in Dragon Ball GT. However, if the fusion was unsuccessful, the two characters can immediately attempt fusion again after splitting. Now, the part you're probably the most curious about, just how strong is fusion? Well, again, there's no official multiplier, but based on Vados' statement for Patara, at the very least we can still say it's A plus B times 10, or perhaps an even higher number. This is because Gogeta himself says in the Broly movie that their two strengths are not just added together, but significantly greater. Those two strengths being Goku and Vegeta's power added together, then multiplied even more. So after all that being said, which is stronger, Potara or fusion? Well, before we can figure out the answer, we also need to go over the pros and cons of each method. Potara pros. The pros of Potara is that unlike the fusion dance, you don't need to lower your ki to match the other fusee, as Trunks had to do this in order to fuse with Goten. With the Potara, however, you simply just gotta put it on and fuse, even if the other fusee is weaker. Because of this, you could argue that Potara is stronger in terms of bringing out the fusion's fullest potential, but I wouldn't say by a massive margin. Usually Goku and Vegeta, as of now, are either equals, or Vegeta is slightly weaker than him. It would only be a con if Vegeta, or in this case the other fusee, was massively weaker. A good example would be when Gohan was absorbed by Buu, and Goku had nobody to fuse with. Goku considered with Hercule, or even Dende, but Goku stated himself that fusing with Hercule would have been like jumping from a power level of 1000 to 1001, just because of how weak Hercule was in comparison to himself. Another pro of the Potara Earrings is that unlike the fusion dance, it doesn't take time. Remember that in order for the fusion dance to be a success, you not only have to lower your ki to match the other, but you need to align your fingertips and overall posture perfectly and in complete sync with the other. Even the slightest deviation will cause the fusion to be incredibly weak, and to retry you'll have to wait a whole hour, which wouldn't be the most ideal situation, especially if you're in the middle of a fight. Potara cons. The main con of the Potara Earrings are the time limit. To explain, before Dragon Ball Super fusing with the Patara was actually indefinite. However, this was retcon in DBS as it now only lasts an hour. While this would actually seem good to most, as this is longer than the 30-minute time limit with the fusion dance, there's still one big problem. To explain, when Goku and Vegeta fused into Vegito against fused Zamasu, they immediately jumped to their strongest form at the time, Super Saiyan Blue. Vegeta was able to keep up and put pressure on Zamasu. Before he could deal the finishing blow, he unfused. Why? because the power of Super Saiyan Blue was so great that it essentially cut the time from 1 hour to 40 minutes in the manga. In the anime, there's not an exact number, but fans have counted anywhere from 9 minutes to slightly higher. You also need to keep in mind that it's a Dragon Ball fight, and the characters are moving at incredible speeds. So how does the fusion dance compare? Well, for one, the fusion dance actually makes up for what the Potara lacks, and that is in fact that it lasts much longer. While the fusion dance time limit is shorter, it doesn't seem to be as taxing on the fusion's body as the Potara. When Gogeta fought Broly, he initially started out small as he fought him in base, SSJ, and then eventually Super Saiyan Blue. Gogeta was not only able to defeat Broly, but do it without unfusing, which is surprising considering they were using their strongest accessible form. There's not really a set reason as for why using Blue in the fusion dance doesn't immediately cause you to unfuse. Some believe it's because Gogeta finished off Broly more quickly than Vegeta, but it could also be because the fusion isn't at all at its fullest potential. Remember, you need to lower your power if you're stronger than the other fusee. While it's unknown if Goku was stronger than Vegeta in the DBS Broly movie, assuming he even was slightly stronger, he'd have to lower his ki to match Vegeta, or vice versa. This would mean that the fusion of Gogeta wouldn't be at its strongest, as Goku had to originally lower his power. Regardless, another pro for the fusion dance would be you don't need an item to fuse. Goku and Vegeta don't exactly carry around the Potara Earrings, especially Vegeta, as he doesn't like to fuse and would only fuse if there's no other option. With the dance, you can simply perform it and fuse on the go. The only big con with the fusion dance is that aside from having to lower your power, if you mess it up just once, you have to wait, and the failed fusion's power is incredibly weak. So which is stronger? Potara or Fusion? This isn't Gogeta vs Vegeta, by the way, just so I can state again. Overall, if you were just to consider DBZ, then it would be undeniable that the Potara is stronger, as it's stated by Elder Kai. Due to the retcon, however, it seems as if that Potara is actually worse than the fusion dance, as it causes the fusion to unfuse pretty quickly depending on what form they use. In terms of power, I'd still say that Potara is just slightly stronger due to the power lowering rule that the fusion dance has. But overall, I think it ultimately depends on what the fighter is looking for. If they want as much power as possible, they should use the Potara. You also need to keep in mind that while the Potara lasts less longer than the fusion dance, that doesn't mean you'll instantly defuse. You'd still have the time, and as long as you can wrap up the fight quickly, the Potara can still get its job done. However, if you want power and to last for a long time, then you should go for the fusion dance. But it's even implied that Vegeta and Gogeta are equal, as well as the methods due to V-Jump magazine and other source material. Regardless, there isn't much of a clear-cut answer for which method is better, unlike in Dragon Ball Z. It depends on your preference as a fan, but also what you need the most in that specific moment as a fighter in Dragon Ball Z. Regardless, this video isn't meant to have people pick a side, as the topic of Vegeta vs Gogeta alone is a heavily debated topic. This is just a more informative video that goes over the pros and cons for each method. Still, it is quite interesting that each method makes up for areas that the other lacks.